You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, the iHeartRadio app, and also streaming live on YouTube. 888-710-4ISN is the number to jump on in. That's 888-710-4476. Coming up 20 minutes from now, the former Michigan tight end, obviously now does a great job with the Big Ten Network. Jake Butt is going to swing on by. Clayton Safey is going to join us, Michigan reporter, at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Kelly in Vegas will stop by at 4:40 p.m. Eastern Time. And Dejon Stribling of the Ole Miss football team is going to join us at 5:20 p.m. Eastern time. You know, you never know where a story is going to go. And truly, this Michigan story with Sherrone Moore is one that I know everyone's going to tell you, oh, there's been rumblings going on back in, since September. This was the worst kept secret. Whoever pretends to be an expert today, that's their right. But I think for most people tuning into this show, most people listening to content, on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram, on the radio, on TV, however you consume what you can consume, you didn't really know about this until yesterday. And sure, now with the way that Twitter is, there are things that get leaked on Twitter. And I have seen things get leaked on Twitter that have been right. And I've seen things that have been leaked on Twitter that have been wrong. So this stuff has been leaked now for a while. But with how serious this is, until you get the final statement, is the guy going to be the coach or not at Michigan, it's tough to kind of react to it. So yesterday when I'm doing the show, and right, we have Tim Tebow on at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We do a segment at 4:20, and we're going late in the segment. Samter gets in my ear and he goes, we have breaking news. And Samter said to me, the breaking news is about Michigan. And my first thought was, what? There was, more sanctions that came on down? I thought we were past that. And he said, not quite. He goes, you may not be happy with this one. And I said, okay, what is it? What, Sherrone Moore got fired? And he goes, yeah. And I said, wow, that's kind of crazy. I thought it was inevitable that Sherrone Moore was going to get fired next year because of poor football performance. But obviously, no one could have predicted what transpired since we found out about that news and the other information that did come on out. Like when we were on the air yesterday, until we found out that he was detained by police, you're thinking to yourself, okay, Michigan, they fired the coach. Like, why did they fire the coach now? Did they just no longer believe in him? Like, what did he do? We were trying to wait and get answers. And I guess as the story goes, right, then it comes out, the tidbit that we get is that he was having an inappropriate relationship with the staff member. So as I said yesterday, you use your imagination and, you pretty much assume what's going on there, which you can't do. If you're a head football coach, you can't have a relationship with someone that's working underneath you in your football program. You just can't do it. I'm not saying that obviously it's happened before. I'm sure many things have been swept under the rug. Other things have got out, but you just can't do that. Now, what happened after that is where the story just takes a turn. Like, I hear people today saying, oh, this is a tragic story. Oh, this is a sad story. I understand having sympathy for Sherrone Moore's wife and Sherrone Moore's kids, but Sherrone Moore, when it turns out that allegedly, right, he, let's just be real, he couldn't keep it in his pants. I'm supposed to have sympathy for him. Now, what happened afterwards, I understand people having a heart because clearly he had a freak out and a crash out where allegedly he goes to the house of the staffer and, there's been reports that he's threatened to kill her or kill himself too. And then he got detained by police and he's still in jail right now. So that's the story with Sherrone Moore. And it is one of the craziest stories that you'll see when it comes to covering college football. Now, just to give you more information that has come on out, like Tim Brando, right, who covers college football, longtime play-by-play guy, he said this today. I've been asked by a few folks, how long was I aware that this potential story existed? My answer was and remains since late September. In no way will you comment on a story like this until there's solid proof of wrongdoing, until it's proven to be absolutely true. Wish Sherrone the best, but the Wolverines will be in a better place once they get their new head coach. And you know what? To the last part of Tim's statement, I know most people probably don't want to have this part of the conversation. Obviously the way that this did go down is not a good thing. It's not a good thing for anyone involved. But do I think that Sherrone Moore is going to be a very successful head coach at Michigan? No, I do not. Like, if we're looking at just the football aspect of this, folks, I understand he was recruiting. I understand they have a big bag of cash, all that stuff. Sherrone Moore's first year was not good. Now, he put lipstick on a pig at the end of the season because he beat Ohio State. then this past year, anytime they had a big game, whether it was Oklahoma, USC, Ohio State, it was the same story. They weren't good enough. They beat up on teams that were underneath them, but the teams that were either on their level or better than them, they got the snot kicked out of them. So from a football standpoint, do I think you could do better than Sherrone Moore? Absolutely. So Dan Wetzel, who's been all over this story, he said Sherrone Moore is expected to appear in court for arraignment on Friday per the Pittsfield Township Police Department. And then John U. Bacon, who's had unprecedented access to the Michigan Wolverine program. He's wrote a lot of books. He's a historian and all that stuff. This is what he tweeted out. Because I think the timeline, I brought this up yesterday. The timeline of this is interesting to me. Like, when did Michigan know? When did they truly know? There was an investigation, but when did you know that you were going to get rid of Sherrone Moore? When did you know that you were going to fire Sherrone Moore? Because you just had some recruits obviously sign in. You just had a hiring cycle, even though now Michigan, right, it's still Michigan. It's going to be a highly coveted job. There's going to be a lot of people that are at schools right now that are really good jobs that maybe just signed contract extensions that are going to be sitting there saying, maybe I leave, maybe I jump ship to go to Ann Arbor. Like, I understand all that. But if you knew like a week ago or 2 weeks ago that you were going to fire Sherrone Moore, wouldn't you have done so then to get a jump start on this? Or was it just, hey, we know where this is trending. Let's just get, and it's a nasty business here. It's slimy business. Let's make promises to kids, get kids to commit, and then we'll drop the hammer like the next week. You know, I don't know what the answer is on that. But this is what John U. Bacon said. More information. UM conducted an internal investigation interviewing both Moore and the employee separately, I presume. That goes back to this past summer. Both said, no way, no how. Anything was happening between them, which didn't give UM much to go on. And then her account flipped yesterday morning. So I would gather here in the timeline of events, this is just my assumption, all this stuff allegedly. For whatever the reasons were, there's been rumors about a pregnancy. Like, I don't know what's true or false, to be clear and be 1,000% clear. But something happened yesterday where this staffer, who was having the inappropriate relationship with the head football coach of Michigan and Sherrone Moore, wanted to cooperate for whatever the reasons were. And once she cooperated and once she gave what she had, obviously that was something that Michigan could no longer stand by, and they had to get rid of Sherrone Moore. Now, does all what I just said in the timeline make sense to me? If I'm just giving you my honest opinion, no, it doesn't. Like, do I think that yesterday was really the day where she came forward and that was the nail in the coffin? I don't know. Just because of the fact that there's so many people that are coming out since then and saying, oh, I heard rumors about this. Like, it started, I heard rumors a week ago. I heard rumors 2 weeks ago. I heard rumors a month ago. And then you have Tim Brando saying he heard things going back to September. So this is an ugly situation. Michigan had no choice but to get rid of Sherrone Moore. And what will transpire after that, you know, bringing it back to a football sense, is now you have a huge job available, a top 5 to 10 job available in the sport, and who's going to be the next head football coach with the Michigan Wolverines? Like, is the quarterback, Bryce Underwood, going to leave? These kids that with the transfer portal opening up on January 2nd, how many kids are going to leave? Like, when the new coach gets announced, they could, they have a certain amount of time period where they could all hit the portal. All that stuff is going to be very intriguing to see. And also, like, I know Adam Schefter went on ESPN today and was like, there's two sides to every story. I don't really know what the Sherrone Moore side of the story here could be. If he just, let's say, cheated on his wife and slept or had an inappropriate relationship with the staff member, is that a career ender? No. Like, you probably still get fired, but would you get hired somewhere else? Sure. But if the allegations are true that you showed up at her house and you threatened to kill her and yourself, yeah, I don't think you recover from this one when it comes to coaching in college football, especially when you weren't winning. Right? How many times do people cover things up, right or wrong, and most of the times wrong, because a certain program is winning? I'm reading the transcript from the Dispatcher, and this is what it had to say. The Dispatcher said they told her that there's a male at the location at the house attacking her, she said he's been stalking her for months. And then for the Pittsfield unit reference for domestic, we just got a call from S1's wife in Ann Arbor saying that the subject is suicidal for losing his job today. The police response, suicidal, dispatcher, he walked out with the knife, and just FYI, there's a U of M detective that's going to be making location as well. And that was the end of the call. So it kind of feels like the way that this story goes. However, the day of reckoning did come. Sherrone Moore gets fired, then goes to the staffer's house, allegedly, threatens to maybe kill her and himself, and then the next thing you know, he's in a jail cell. What a wild, and I mean wild story. And you think about this, there's probably a 30 for 30 that could be done just with Michigan in the last 5 years. And I know this is the most serious of the entire nature of it. This pales in, the cheating scandal and all that. It pales in comparison to a coach getting fired and threatening to kill himself and a staffer, right? After an inappropriate relationship. But you look at all that the college football world has been through this year. I saw a tweet the other day about remember the whole John Mateer gambling Venmo allegations? I saw that and I said, that was still in this college football season. Where you just look at the amount of big jobs that have become open, whether it was Auburn, whether it was LSU, Arkansas, Florida. Like, you just go through Penn State, now Michigan. We thought this was over after Penn State made their hire at Matt Campbell. All right, the jobs we care about in the coaching carousel, they're all filled. Nope, now Michigan's open. So what is Michigan going to do? Who are they going to hire as their next head football coach? And I know Kalen DeBoer is the name that gets thrown out there first. You got to consider it. Now, I don't think that conversation really takes off until Alabama loses the college football playoff to Oklahoma. Like, if Alabama loses to Oklahoma in the college football playoff, I'm not saying he's going to leave. But those calls for him to leave or him wanting to leave are going to get louder and louder and louder. And, I could argue that Kalen DeBoer is a better fit in Ann Arbor than he is Tuscaloosa. But do I think you leave as the head football coach of Alabama until you're told to do so? No, I don't. The next name, I gave it to you yesterday. That was my immediate, I said Jesse Minter, and then it was pointed out to me that he still has a show cause, and there's been some discrepancies on that. And I do think that they should probably move away. I love Jim Harbaugh, but I think they should move away from the Jim Harbaugh tree at this point. But if you can't get DeBoer and DeBoer says no, then I do think that you should go to Kenny Dillingham. And if Kenny Dillingham then says no from Arizona State, I kind of think Clark Lee would be a good hire at Vanderbilt. And I kind of think Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri would also be a good hire as well. Jed Fish, not really interested. Manny Diaz, not really interested. Like, if you had to give me a mediocre name, maybe Dan Mullen, but I think Michigan could do a whole lot better than Dan Mullen. And could they just make Biff Poggi, who's the interim head coach, him for the season, and then they rehire next year? I don't think that's going to happen, because I got to think with all the coaches that we have in college football, at least one that's going to be in the top 5 to 10 names that Michigan's going to want is going to say yes. Like, look how messy the Penn State scandal was from at least the way that we were looking at it. Or the job search, I should say. Look how messy that job search was at Penn State. They ultimately got Matt Campbell. I think most people said, how they got there maybe wasn't the best process, but Matt Campbell's a good hire. So do I think Michigan still make a good hire? Yes. But obviously that's not the most important part of the story for sports fans. Yeah, like, you want to know who's coaching your football team. But you have a head football coach getting fired because he had an inappropriate relationship with a staff member, and the next thing you know, hours later, he's detained and he's still in jail because there was an alleged assault and dispute at the staff member's house, and Sherrone Moore allegedly was threatening to kill her and himself. What a wild story. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. Former Michigan tight end Jake Butt will join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. I am looking at the next odds, or all the odds to replace Sherrone Moore as the next head football coach at Michigan. Kalen DeBoer is 4-1. Jesse Minter 5-1. Harbaugh's former right-hand guy at Michigan, now currently his right-hand guy with the Los Angeles Chargers. Joe Brady's 6-1. Jed Fish is 7-1. Jeff Brom is 8-1. DeBoer would be interested. Minter, I think he's going to stay in the NFL. And I also do wonder if they have to get away from the Jim Harbaugh tree. Joe Brady, I don't know how much from what I've been told he's dying to get back into the college game, but maybe he's not going to be an NFL head coach once again if things don't get sorted out in Buffalo. Jed Fish is 7-1. I think that would be underwhelming. Jeff Brom is 8-1. And then Kenny Dillingham and Lincoln Riley also 9-1 as well. And then you have some 10-1 guys in Brian Daboll, Dan Mullen, Marcus Freeman. And that's where we're at right now when it comes to this whole situation that's going on with the Michigan Wolverines. But to say the least, what a wild story that this is. And when we were on the air yesterday and we found out that Sherrone Moore was fired, I was like, the timing of that is a little bit weird. And then you kind of see why with the details that did come out after that, why the story did come out as late as it did and kind of why Sherrone Moore got fired when he did with all that did transpire after that as well. So definitely a wild day, and we're going to see what is the fallout and the aftermath of that. We should have Jake Butt coming up momentarily. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here from on the Infinity Sports Network, the former Michigan tight end, and he's with us right now. Jake, appreciate the time. Thanks for doing this. How you been?
Been better. Been better, but yeah, I mean, this is crazy, man. It's super unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. What else can you say? Yeah, I truly cannot believe what's unfolded in these past 24 hours.
Yeah, and, we were on the air yesterday when the news broke, and I said, okay, like, if you would have told me a year from now Sherrone Moore was fired and the team just wasn't playing well, I thought those were conversations that I was having after the Ohio State game. Little did we know, even though everyone's going to tell you that these things have been whispered for a while, what was going to follow after that. So when more and more information did come out and you get a better understanding of what did fully transpire, to the best of your ability, just how'd you process it yesterday?
It sucks because I also know like the people involved in the sense like, I mean, man, there's like young children that their lives are completely changed. There's like a wife whose life is completely changed, like innocent people. The players in the locker room, they didn't sign up for this. I just did a recruiting show. Michigan signed a great recruiting class. What about the parents that just trusted Michigan with the future of their children at a pivotal time in their life? Like, that's completely uprooted. And on top of the fact, it's like the continuation of Michigan. You weren't even through or over past the Connor Stallion sign stealing gate. And now you're opening this right back up again. And I mean, look, it meant a lot to me when Jim Harbaugh came there and he talked about like what it means to be a Michigan man. I remember like a week after he got hired, he was driving into work. There was a car crash on the highway and Jim pulled over to like help the people. And it was like a story. He was being called Superman. And, I was like, man, like these are the virtues and values I stand for. And now I get on social media, and rightfully so, every single podcast and network is just mocking what Michigan, man. No one wants to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. It just sucks, man. It really is so unfortunate for everybody.
I know that we jump right away, in what we do. Who's going to be the next head football coach at Michigan? With what you just said, though, do you think it's time in the next hire to steer away? As much as Jim Wright won a national championship, is a Michigan legend, do you think it's the right thing to maybe steer away from hiring someone that has ties, underneath the Jim Harbaugh coaching tree?
I can see why that might be the case, but I know there's candidates being mentioned that like there'd be zero concern of anything like this happening again. I think that you don't take a chance, you don't take a risk. If you're doing an investigation, and this would be true for a lot of schools where you might uncover something and, hey, but you really like this candidate and you might be willing to take the risk of, hey, we know some information, but we still think it's the best candidate. Michigan can't afford to do that right now. So I think the time now is to go out there and get your Dusty May. I mean, remember the Michigan basketball program was experiencing a ton of drama with Juwan Howard. No one talks about that at this point. All they talk about is what a great hire Dusty May was, how great he is for the community and for the players and for the basketball program. That's got to be the main focus for Michigan and I don't even know who's making that decision at this point. That's the other thing here. It is an institutional mess.
Do you think it's time to move off of the athletic director, Ward Manuel?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think, that what I need to know to accurately answer that question is there's